Waka waka. So good. Please don't make that the opening credits to this episode.
Hi, I'm Maddie,
And I'm Abigail, and this is
two writers.
Many Wrongs. Two writers, many ways to write a novel. Maddie had this fantastic idea to talk about how do you actually write a novel. It's one of the things that she and I have both actually written novels, and whether or when they get published or not is completely up in the air, but we've done the thing. We have written a full novel. So we're gonna attempt to talk about how we actually accomplished that, what are the steps that we took, and what are some of the tools that we used along the way.
Yeah, I think this will be an interesting topic because I think what people don't realize is a lot of people start novels, but not, it's kind of rare to actually finish a novel. And
Oh,
although
yeah.
we haven't gotten our novels published, we've made that step of we have
Yes.
finished a full manuscript. Abigail is
Hmm.
currently querying,
Hmm.
and I'm currently still in the editing trenches.
But
Um,
and I think that that's kind of the big deal is it, like you said, people don't realize so many people just don't ever finish their novels. And like when I was an undergrad, one of my professors said to me, he's like, anybody can start writing a book. Only a writer can finish it. And I've always kind of held on to that of like, even if my first draft of my book isn't good, I finished a full draft. It's
mhm,
done.
mhm.
So I'd love to maybe start with obviously we have like our big novels that we're actively working on trying to get published, that kind of thing. Did you ever attempt to write like a full-length manuscript before that?
Yes, I did.
How'd it go?
Um, I got like probably like half the way through and then realized that this was a book that needed other books to come before it for it to make sense. So it's like I had all this lore and like all these things you're supposed to know, and I realized that it was just too hard to build into this novel to tell that story. So
Hmm.
that's what ended up me creating the novel I'm writing now is I needed like this establishing ground for this novel that I said.
Oh, okay. So it actually led into your current project.
Hmm.
Cool. How old were you when you started that?
I was 16.
Okay,
Yeah,
nice.
and I really like a lot of the story in that, and I'm excited to get to that, but that's really far away. So that
Mm-hmm.
novel takes place when the princess is 23,
Mm-hmm.
and in my current book, she's 12.
Wow.
So
Yeah, a long time away.
a long time away before we get to that. So,
Okay, dang, that's interesting. I made my first attempt at a novel in seventh grade. And of course, like computers access for a seventh grader wasn't really a thing. So the entire thing was handwritten in a notebook. And I got basically to like the rising conflict and then just didn't know what I wanted to do and kind of gave up and summer started and like I moved on and whatever.
you know, I
Um,
did actually attempt a novel earlier than that. I also wrote a novel in seventh. Well,
mhm,
I didn't get maybe at most halfway. I think it was probably like a
mhm.
third of the way through in seventh grade, but it was fan fiction.
Oh, how funny. No, mine was an original story, but I just I like I said, I got to that conflict and was like, this is really hard. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. But when I started college and had that teacher say that to me, I went ahead and decided that I was like, you know what? I'm gonna finish this. I swear, whatever. And so I went ahead and found the old notebook and typed the whole thing up, and it was bad. I mean, it was seventh grade writing.
Yeah.
But even though I knew I would never publish it, even though I knew like I would never show it to anybody, I didn't want it to necessarily exist anymore. I went ahead and finished it just to prove that I could finish something. So that was my first like real attempt at writing an actual novel.
I just remembered that I have been, and si when I was 16, I started writing this novel, but it wasn't the first time I
Hmm.
had written it. I'd started writing it way younger. I think I might have been like 12 when I started writing it
Hmm.
because I just had these horrific war flashes of my original drafts that are
Ah.
called they're so bad. I literally called the novel Sunset Boulevard.
Oh my gosh, amazing. That's amazing.
And like I didn't get like super far. I got like maybe a chapter or two in
Hmm.
and like I'm picturing it and it's just so dramatic. Like they're like standing on the beach talking and I'm like I don't even know like I don't
Yeah.
even there's no beach scene anymore but like
Hmm.
that's how it started it's like her hair
Yeah.
was whipped through the and I'm just like
Oh,
I don't know what's going on here but
yeah.
it's the original
No,
attempt.
I love that. I think that it kind of goes back to the fact that like writers don't choose to be writers. Like it's just a part of who we are. Like we can't control it. And so I think talking about, our very first attempts at novels, we can start breaking down like what were some of the original struggles that we ended up having, and maybe how have we overcome them? Does that sound like a good approach?
Yeah, I would love to know how I overcame them.
Well, we'll try to figure it out. I mean, like I said earlier, I think that this whole episode is going to be learning as we talk. Like, I don't know the answers to these things off the top of my head. Like, I'm truly discovering it as I'm talking to you,
Hmm.
thinking about how I wrote that novel. And so, I think I think a healthy dose of everything in my life is just basically like that fuck you gene of my teacher was like, only real authors can finish things. And I was like, fuck you, I'm going to finish this. Which is just a lot of why I accomplish things in my life is just proving arbitrary people wrong who truly don't give a shit if they're wrong or not. And so thinking about like my second novel, well, my first novel that I'm currently querying, like my actual first book, thinking about that, it started out as a short story. Like I didn't have the intention to write a novel, because my entire undergrad career, I had been writing short stories. Like that's what I had been taught how to do. And so I think that my first book, there was a huge learning curve there because I didn't anticipate it being a novel.
Hmm.
And so it really wasn't until my second book that I a little bit better using the different tools at my disposal. So I feel like each book I've slowly learned a little bit more.
Hmm.
Whereas the very first one, the seventh grade one, was just, I have to finish this and then I can be done with it and never look at it again. And
Yeah.
my first book is really more of like a labor of love. I worked on it for 10 years. I edited, revised. It is a completely different book than it was in the beginning, kind of thing.
When I first started my main novel, the one I'm working on now, I got pretty far. I think I may have gotten like two-thirds of the way through,
Hmm.
even more so. And I was workshopping it back and forth with my cousin Jake, and we came up with this profound discovery that it was not a single book, it was a trilogy.
Hmm. I
And
can picture the two of you guys being like, oh my God, this isn't a standalone, and like being so excited about that. It's really cute.
it was actually more like he was giving me a diagnosis he was worried about giving me like
Oh.
this actually might be a trilogy, which meant like I was not two-thirds of the way through.
Yep.
It
Yeah.
meant I needed to like completely start over almost.
Uh-huh.
So it was kind of like a I like because it was something we were talking about, and I'm finally like having that moment of stages of grief,
Yep.
bargaining, being like, no, I can, and
Hmm.
realizing I really needed to make it into a single book. So then I made it into a
Yep.
single book. Again, I always get stuck around the middle.
Hmm.
And I was like, I don't know what to do with this. I'm lost. So that's when I went to grad school.
Nice.
So I wanted to learn how to write like a book length project.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
Well, I like that that was the next step that you took was seeking out help because I think that's something that is undervalued. Not to say that, you have to go get a master's or you have to be like highly educated in this field, but even just seeking out a local writers group or some community aspect of it, like we've talked about before, um, is a great tool when writing a novel or working on a book, because you eventually get into that echo chamber and can't move forward or think of anything new.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I had always wanted to go back to grad school.
Hmm.
And so this was something that I knew that I wanted to do. And so when I came to this stopping point, I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm going to go do something. But I didn't actually work on my novel in grad school. So I put my novel
Hmm.
on hiatus for
Yep.
those 2 years, and then had a bit of a breakdown after how the end of my grad school program,
Understandable.
and then didn't write for like a year and a half. So,
Hmm.
there's like, we've
Yeah,
went into detail about whether or not to go to grad school, but
absolutely.
that is a story I've heard before. It was something I'd
Hmm.
heard from somebody who was in a graduate program for an MFA who
Hmm.
had the same experience. They're like last semester they had a really bad mentor and it like broke them.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
knew that was a thing.
as I'd say, when I was in grad school, I asked about, oh, well, I really love school. Like, do you think I should go get a doctorate? And they were like, absolutely not. It will crush your soul. Don't do it. And I was like, oh, okay, thanks. Um, but I'd like to talk to a little bit about, the tools that we can use to help us write novels. Because I think we've talked a lot about, gardener and architect and how we start, planning our ideas. But I'd really like to talk about some of the actual tools that we can use. We've talked a little bit about our Kindle scribes, which, sponsor us, Bezos. You have enough money. Um, but I think that my Kindle Scribe has been a huge benefit to my editing process so far. And then Scrivener is another one that I use a lot.
Mhm.
And we can talk about each of those in more detail, but I know that you use a lot of different resources and tools, and you're kind of always looking for the best one to
Right.
help you. So, what are you using?
I mean, it changes, but I think essentially I always have like the same types of tools, so I might like
Mm,
switch to a different tool. Right now, I'm using Microsoft Whiteboard, which is
mm,
very similar to what I was using before Milanote, but it
mm-hmm,
essentially was I needed to pay for it. So I
mm-hmm,
needed to find an alternative that I didn't have to pay for. And I already have Microsoft Suite. So
mm-hmm.
essentially, it's like basically like a little board where you stick little post-it notes on it and you can move them around however you like. You can add text and throw images in there. And I really like that because it's kind of like you can throw everything in on a board. And the way I've been using it recently is to write like all my scenes out,
Mm-hmm.
or like to write even like in a conceptual stage. I've used tools like this to like just on each idea gets its own post-it note to be like everything you know about this novel, everything you know about
Right.
these characters. I color code like these are characters, these are
Mm-hmm.
scenes, these are lore, etc. And then you can move them around however you
Interesting.
like to kind of,
Uh-huh.
and that kind of helps
Hmm.
me organize my thoughts. I've done the same kind of thing on paper too.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you is that I know you've also used a sticky note system in person or, physically. So why do you jump from one tool to another? Because you also used to use Trello, which was kind of a sticky note system as well.
Right. So it's more like Trello is also another one that I think Trello is a lot more restrictive because it's got like these columns,
Yeah.
whereas like Milanote or
Hmm.
Microsoft Whiteboard has like you can physically move things around.
Okay.
And there's just something about that moving stuff around, and that's
Hmm.
why I was doing it in person, like writing down on sticky notes.
Right.
But it also felt like wasteful using all that paper and
Hmm.
sticky notes and
Hmm.
moving them around. And like also sometimes it was hard to see, like I'd have to like get up close.
Mm.
Whereas like, I can zoom in and zoom out in on a software. So I switched to using mostly digital stuff.
Okay.
Um,
It's
but
so funny because I'm still a very physical like person when it comes to writing. We've talked about in our setting episode, I like to draw out the space, the house, like draw up a blueprint or something like that. And that's a physical note that I'll keep in a notebook. When I edit, I generally print out my manuscript and then edit by hand. When I was doing because my second novel is told in a non-linear fashion. And so I had all the chapters on sticky notes and was reorganizing them to have the best thing. And I'm really trying to move into the digital space because it does feel wasteful. And my scribe has definitely helped me when it comes to editing because I'm not printing out, all of that stuff. But at the same time, I always have a hard time. Like I don't know. I feel like I can't zoom out big picture as much when it's on my computer screen. And I want to be able to I don't know, just I'm a very tactile learner,
Mm.
maybe.
I mean,
Um,
I would say like you don't have to fight your instincts.
yeah.
I've always been very interested in tech. I love
Mm,
technology. I'm always like looking out for new tech. I like to read
yeah.
about what's coming up, and
Hmm.
I'm if I can be, I'm an early adopter of things like obviously the Kindle Scribe
Yes.
because I like keeping things kind of digital and
Hmm.
I find that fun because then I can just access it anywhere.
Yeah,
Like
that's
I can
true.
pull up my Microsoft whiteboard
Hmm.
on my phone and be like, okay, if I have an idea for a scene, I just throw it on there, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, that's one of the things that so I still write in Word is just my go-to. But I do know a lot of people that write in Google Docs because they can, access it from any computer anywhere, whatever. In the autosave feature, I know that people really, really, swear by it's saved in the cloud. If something happens to my computer, um, it's a lot scarier. And I do
If you
back stuff
have
up,
if you
but
have
yeah.
OneDrive, it works the same way with Word.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Because I use
Um,
Word on my phone and like there's autosave. I can
hmm.
like quickly go from my computer to my phone
Hmm.
and it you can turn on autosave. It does the same
Hmm.
thing as Google Docs. And I think
See,
that
this is why I need you.
there's a lot more tools. I think Google Docs is good for like quick write-ups, but
Yeah.
if you're writing like a novel or something, Word is has a
Hmm.
lot more of the features that you would need for formatting and stuff.
Yeah. So let's pivot and talk about Scrivener a little bit. So Scrivener is an app. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, software.
Yeah. Um, that I know I don't use it to its full capabilities because I never do. And like you are always going in and learning new stuff about how to update it, whatever. But I've used Scrivener in the most basic sense of, you can separate out each chapter and rearrange the structure of your stories. I have tabs for characters, setting, locations, continuity, and it basically you can just hold everything in one place. So I have all of my notes, all of my chapters, the overall manuscript, everything like that in one location, which
Yeah.
is really nice. But I don't write in Scrivener. I just keep everything in there, which I know is not the most efficient way. Um, but I do like it for, like I said, that big picture visualization.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna talk about like my experience when I was working as a technical writer.
Yeah.
We had this web app that you would write the articles on. Um, and I personally had trouble writing in that app because it was just like such a really small window and like I
Yeah.
couldn't move things around. So I would take the article and I'd copy it and paste it into a Google Doc and I'd work from
Hmm.
there and then copy and paste it back in or
Yeah.
reformat it. And like it just that worked better for me to do
Hmm.
it that way. And a lot of people did it that way. Some people wrote directly into the app. Other people did the same thing I did. It just kind of, you have to find the rhythm that works best for you. So even if it doesn't, if it feels kind of counterintuitive to copy and paste from Word, but
Hmm.
it works, that's all that matters. Um, I found out for me in Scrivener, there's like a tool that you can, like, there's ways of making it so that your screen is more simplified, which
Hmm.
is how I've done it so that I can have more like a word experience. And I
Yeah.
actually like typing in Scrivener better because they have a typewriting feature, which is, it's like a scroll that keeps your line, whatever line your cursor's on, at the center of your screen.
Oh, whoa.
So like while you're typing, you're always looking at the middle of your screen.
That would freak me out.
Why?
Because I think I'm just so used to Word and like it's scrolling along with me. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's scrolling. It is scrolling.
Yeah.
It's keeping your eye
Hmm.
line like in a more comfortable place. Whereas like with
Hmm.
Word, you're writing at the top and then suddenly
Right.
you're looking
Yeah,
down like this.
exactly.
And then you're having to like manually scroll
Yeah.
to get to the
Interesting.
next part. So that I like that feature where
Hmm.
I don't have to waste time scrolling or like moving
Right.
my head. I'm just looking directly as it like
Yeah.
moves up, up, up like a
Yeah.
typewriter.
Yeah, that's true. Well, you're also, I think that if you and I were to write side by side, we would drive each other crazy because I feel as though you are much more, I mean, we've tried writing side by side at AWP and then we get distracted and talk to each other, but
Well, it's because we don't see each other enough. I think that's like the
exactly.
problem is like,
Uh,
yeah,
but I get distracted often when I'm writing and like will write, and then look something up and then write, and then look. And I feel like you are probably much more dedicated. I mean, I can just like you talking about your eye line and not moving your head. Like I can just picture you as a machine, like type, 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 type,
I
you know?
wish. I
I don't know. That's
wish.
just what I'm picturing.
I mean, I can do like sprints of like 20, 25 minutes where it's like
Yeah.
hyper focused, like
Hmm.
but like at I also get distracted and I try
Yeah.
really hard to not. I'm trying to get better at that, but
It happens.
it's hard. It's hard to
Yeah.
sit there and just crank out words like that.
Hmm.
Because like I
Yeah.
think too when I get like this I'm trying to think when I'm writing, when I'm deeply focused, it
Hmm.
doesn't really look like I'm doing things.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I
It
when
looks
I'm
like you're zoned out almost.
well, I like when I'm like really deeply in a story, I'm not looking at the screen.
Oh.
I'm like eyes closed, head back, typing. Because I'm like,
So you look possessed.
yes, I do. I do. It's wild. Like
That's insane.
so I recently liked typing on my phone because I can have my phone next to me and just the
Uh-huh.
keyboard on my lap. And I'm like staring and over at the like the
Oh
trees
my,
in the yard. Yeah, like
that's crazy.
yeah.
That is I would I will pay Josh to record you doing
No.
that because that sounds absolutely insane.
Yeah, like
Oh my God. So you're
'cause I'm
very good at typing without looking.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
I
Nice.
trained really hard because
Mm-hmm.
I was like the only kid that didn't know how to type like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I took a computer class specifically to learn how to type
Very
because
nice.
I was the only person that didn't know how to type correctly. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and now I'm very fast and very accurate without looking at my fingers.
Nice. I still don't type correctly. I'm fast and I can type without looking for the most part. But my right hand does all the stuff it's supposed to do, and my left hand is one finger. I don't know why.
Hilarious.
Yeah. But anyway, let's get back to how, right? I don't it's just hard because I don't want to rehash a bunch of stuff we've already talked about. And we've talked about the idea of like how do we get ideas and how do we flourish those ideas. But I do think it's a different process for how you write a short story versus how you write a novel. Just in the planning aspect of it, there are so many more characters, so many more scenes, so many more locations. Is there a way that you approach it? I mean, I know that you're a planner, but is
Mhm.
there a way that you approach it kind of like in the moment when trying to balance all of those different elements?
What do you mean? Like,
I mean, like as I don't know, it's hard because you plan so much. Like, I don't really know how to ask this question correctly, but like for me, in the moment is when I get the feeling of like, oh, there's going to be another character here. And then we'll kind of write that scene and see how it feels. And then, same thing with like chapter breaks. Like
mm,
I decide when a chapter break is when I feel like it's complete, or when I feel like it'll be like the right dramatic pause. And it's
right.
hard because I don't plan or plot my novels out. So a lot of my how do I write a novel is based in the feeling as I'm writing it in the moment. And I have no idea how you approach that when it comes to a novel.
Oh gosh, this is gonna be the continuation of Maddie is creepy when she writes. So,
Oh
um,
God.
I like, I know, I'm like, I'm thinking about it and like, oh, Abigail's not gonna like this. So like,
Uh-huh.
I almost like get into like a trance-like state
Hmm.
where like I close my eyes, I take a deep breath, and I like picture the scene in my head. Like there's
Hmm.
this guy, I'm like, this is everything he's been through, and I'm trying to imagine what it is like to be him
Hmm.
and be in this moment. And then I like fully picture it and like again closing my eyes because it's easier for me to imagine.
Hmm.
And then I start writing like what he's saying and what he's doing. It's like I'm just reporting what I'm seeing in my head.
Hmm. I get that. So, I mean, so there is a certain amount of in the moment for you that's not plotted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I know what's going to happen,
Hmm.
but I'm writing it like he doesn't know what's going to happen.
Okay. I love that because that allows for a sense of spontaneity from your character. Because I think that's another thing that is hard when it comes to novels. Like I said, my first book I thought was going to be a short story, and then it turned out to be a novel because as I was writing, my characters had more to say and had
Mhm.
more to explore. And so I think that that's another really hard thing to describe to somebody who isn't a writer necessarily is, why is one thing a short story and one thing a novel? I don't know, just because I had more to say about that, because the characters had more life. Like, I don't know how to explain why some things I write are short stories and some things I write are novels.
Because I'm trying to think of like I don't know how I know that either.
Yeah, but like there are just some ideas that so okay. So I just submitted a short story to Silly Goose Press, which I'm very excited about, and we'll see what happens. But I was working at two different short stories, trying to figure out which one did I want to submit. And both of them are short stories that I've been working on for years. Because I don't work on my short stories very often. I focus more on my novel. So when an opportunity like this comes up, I'll pull out short stories that, I wrote in college and then kind of rework them, see how I feel, whatever. And one of the short stories my mom absolutely loves. Like it's, I think, one of her favorite things I've ever written. And I kept trying to make it work and make it work and make it work. And eventually I talked to my mom and I was like, I don't think it's a short story. Like, I have written it in six completely different ways, all with the same concept, all with the same characters. But there's just too much. Like, I think it needs to be a novel or even a novella. Like it doesn't, the story that I want to tell and that the characters want to tell does not fit in 3,000 words. And that was a weird realization to come to because I'd
Mhm.
already written it in so many different ways in the constraints of a short story. So it's always weird when you come to that realization, I think. And I don't know how to explain it other than the purpose that I am trying to achieve, the thing I want my reader to feel, has to have more words.
Yeah. I think like you're kind of you have to it's words are hard, you guys. So
It's right, and especially describing words with other words. Like, I don't even know if this is making sense at this point.
it's just um a lot of times when I'm writing like a short story, I have like a picture in my
Hmm.
mind. Like
Hmm.
this is a scene that I want to show, and then I kind
Yeah.
of create stuff coming around it. And then
Yes.
I think like I write like everything I want to happen.
Hmm.
Like these are events I know for sure are gonna happen. These are
Right.
characters I know I want to happen. But it's also like figuring out like again, this is where it helps having like something like we're putting post-it notes on
Right.
a surface, is I
Hmm.
can kind of see like this is I'm gonna need a lot of space for this particular scene or
Hmm.
this, and then putting all those scenes together while I'm planning and being like, this is gonna end up being more like a novella
Hmm.
than a short story. So I think
Hmm.
that is also and I think like as you're writing, as you start like that beginning of the story and you
Hmm.
realize if it's taking you a while to build the intro,
Right.
set things up, the longer it takes you to set up the story, the longer
Hmm.
the story needs to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, part of it is the I can fit part of the message into a short story because the baseline of it is, anytime that you are writing something or doing a workshop of a piece or whatever, the first thing that I always think about is what's the purpose? What do I want the author or the reader to walk away from having read this.
Hmm.
And I think that when it comes to my novels, I want them to walk away with a very complex feeling. Especially when it comes to like my moralistically gray characters, I want them to walk away with a greater sense of how complicated the world is. Whereas when it comes to short stories, I want them to walk away with a more simplistic emotion of either like heartbreak or hope or joy or like it's a much easier thing to consume in one sitting. Um, and so I think that that kind of dedicates or dictates which form a story might
Yeah.
take place to.
I think like a novel is a TV show.
Yeah.
Like if it's a series, then it's like multiple seasons. If it's one book, then it's a mini series.
Hmm.
But a short story is a movie.
Yeah.
And so
And
things
there can
can
be great complicated movies out there. Absolutely, you know. But yeah.
but I think usually like in a short story, it's like one specific idea that you're
Hmm.
exploring.
Exactly.
Whereas I feel like in a novel, you're exploring multiple ideas and how they work in tandem. And then
Yeah.
for like a short, like a flash fiction, it's like a snapshot of a moment,
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
like a
No, I
very
agree with that.
specific thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So when thinking about how do we actually write the novel, we have our idea, we've decided if it's going to be a novel or a short story and how complex it's going to be. We have our different tools at our disposal. Um, I know, again, we've talked about that you will plot. I am learning how to plot. I'm hoping to plot for my third book because I'm going to give it a try. But is there anything else that you do to prepare for a novel?
Um, Let me think. So like usually I take the time to write out everything that I know
Hmm.
and then I organize that and then I try and fill in the gaps because they'll be like,
Hmm.
I know this, but there's like some little area I don't know, which is of course part of the planning process, but it is kind of
Hmm.
like getting it as simplistic as I can while still leaving enough room for there to be some spontaneity while
Hmm.
I'm writing. Um, and then I think like for me, I like to organize my Scrivener project to make it as
Hmm.
easy as possible to, write. And then I I like to put like little summaries of what
Hmm.
I want to happen in the first part. Like
Yeah.
this is the first chapter, this is what I would like to happen. And then I just let myself write.
Hmm.
And even even if it's not really fitting in, I just write, I just find like an entry point and just keep writing. And I'm like,
Hmm.
again, set a timer, like 25 minutes, just write.
Yep.
Doesn't matter if it's the exact scene.
Hmm.
But just write something. And sometimes I'll start off with stuff like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why I decided to
Hmm.
write this novel. This is really dumb. I don't really know.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I'm like, and then she woke up and I'm like, I don't know.
Right.
Like, I mean, I
Yeah.
didn't actually do that. That's
No,
kind
I
of a
get that.
great line, but you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like, yeah.
No, I do. I get it. Well, and I think that that's one of the things that's fun about, like we talked about, you have to finish. Like, if you want to be a writer, you have to actually finish it. And I think that's part of the fun when it comes to it is when you have that mentality of like, I don't care what words come out of me. I have to finish this manuscript and story, even if it doesn't make sense, even if it's kind of shit. Like, I can always work with something on a page. Because I find that a lot of times you end up writing the thing that you didn't know you actually needed to write. We've talked before about there's no wasted writing. And I feel like when I get into that groove of like, I just have to get words on a page, my characters will reveal something to me, or I will realize, like, oh, that's why this is on my mind. Like, that's what my subconscious is trying to tell me about this story, which is always kind of fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Um,
Um, Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Okay. I was just going to say one of the things that I try to do, I try to do it before writing, but as with pantsing, it doesn't often happen beforehand. I really try to spend a lot of time on research, which is really hard when you have kind of limited resources. And so that's one of the things. Sorry, it's one of the things I love about Jodi Picoult's books, is how incredibly well researched all of her stories are, and the lengths that she goes to get people's stories right. And, I've started doing that kind of interview process with my own books and my own writing. My second novel talks about the Y2K crisis and, people being afraid of the end times coming. And rather than trying to read a bunch of articles and look up Y2K nonsense stuff, I talked to my dad because my dad was on the team for Oracle that was,
Mhm.
actually trying to fix the bug to make sure that everything continued to work and all that kind of stuff, and talk to him about his experience there. And there are a couple of other people in my novel that they were going through similar situations to my characters that I would interview them. The book is set between 1998 and 2002. And so, I did a lot of research into what was the fashion, what were the popular things, what books and movies had come out by then, what pop culture references can I use that would be accurate for the characters' ages and for the popularity level of that time and stuff. And so I think that one of the things that is really, really important when doing a novel, whether it's a, contemporary fiction or even a sci-fi, is that level of research.
Mhm.
And a lot of times I'll be writing, and then just put in parentheses like pop culture reference here, and then have to go back and do that research to find the right thing. So, like for Christmas, each of my characters, they're all teenage girls, and their aunt got them each a book, a CD, and a piece of clothing. And like having to think about, okay, well, what book would mean the most to each girl, and what CD would mean the most to each girl, and what does this say about their character, and what would have been new that came out that year, and all of that kind of stuff. I think it was a lot of research that I enjoyed doing, and I don't know that I would have had to do the same level was it a short story.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
very true. Like I think there's probably different levels of research, but I guess it depends on what you're
Hmm.
writing.
Of course. Absolutely.
I I'm trying to think like for me, I do a lot of research up front, obviously, but like I
Hmm.
also like uh, want to focus on like the characters and the story itself and then kind of fill in the
Hmm.
details a little bit later.
Hmm.
And so like I'll make notes of like I need to research this. I want to like flesh it out a little bit more. I hate that term, but it's something that really
Yeah.
we use a lot. So like I'll know that I want to like go in a little deeper because it's like basically like I'm making a sketch the first time I write
Right.
a novel.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of fluff that I need to fill in. So like to
Hmm.
take that's why I like to have my scribe so that I can
Hmm.
handwrite stuff really quick that it
Yes.
jots into my head like, oh, I should look into this so that I can
Hmm.
kind of make this dialogue more realistic or
Yep.
can I can describe this better if I look into
Hmm.
this. And just anytime, I'm very good about anytime I see something that's interesting or that reminds me of my novel, I'll save
Hmm.
it into like my Google Keep as like a site,
Yeah.
like, oh, here's like an article or here's a
Hmm.
YouTube video, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, that's really smart. I um I do that on a much less academic level, like specifically because I do like to take characteristics so much from the people around me that even though like the characters in my novels, they're not ever a one-to-one for somebody in my life,
Right.
there's things that they do that somebody in my life would be like, I do that. I'm like, yeah, I know I stole it, kind of thing. So like I do have like notes on, gestures that people make or like specific settings or scenes or locations, when I lived in Tallahassee, when I was at school, there are some, really fun places that I like to go that I tried to fit into my novel. So I had to look up, like, did they exist at this time? What was there instead? Like that kind of thing. And so I do that a lot, trying to make it realistic with research that way. Much again, I'm not writing sci-fi, so I feel like I don't have to save like articles as much.
Right.
But like even things like a character's occupation, I think, says a lot about who they are as a person. And there's a really big trend right now in romance novels that every female main character is a writer or a ghostwriter or in marketing or in publishing or an editor or whatever. And I always kind of wonder, like, yeah, it fits a lot of those characters, but also is it because we don't want to do research into another job and like this is what we know, so this is what my character does.
Or
Whereas I
maybe it's just a
think
self-insert.
Well, absolutely. I'm sure some of them are. But like I'm specifically thinking about Emily Henry books, and I love Emily Henry books. But m pretty much all of her main characters work in the literary field in some way, shape, or form. And again, it really fit, like it is a major piece of some of her characters, and some of her characters, it's like, all right, it's just what they do. But like thinking about Jodi Picoult books, there's one book, Mad Honey, and one of the main characters is a beekeeper. And like the amount of research that she had to do for this woman to have this random occupation is incredible. One of her characters is a death doula. And like looking up in what a death doula is, and
What is a death doula?
a death doula is very similar to a birthing doula in that a birthing doula welcomes you into the world and the
Right.
death doula helps you exit gracefully. And so basically, like if you are in hospice or like if
Right.
you get a terminal illness kind of thing, you can hire a death doula and they will, help you organize your bank statements if that's what you need to do. They will make you, your mom's chicken soup recipe if that's what you need to
So
do. They
like
will,
instead of like at the end of your life going, bring in the priest to read me my last
Mhm.
rites, you can
Yeah.
be like, bring me the death
Yeah,
doula.
but sometimes, I mean, and again, this is just based on the book, but sometimes death doulas will be with you for months leading up to it. Sometimes they're there just at the very end. It's really interesting, but like she did so much research on this thing. And so I really try to think about that when writing my own characters of like what occupation is going to bring out the most of this character, but then I have to go do fucking research on that occupation. Um,
Wasn't that fun?
it is fun sometimes, but sometimes it is daunting because, again, I suck at just looking stuff up. I want to talk to somebody, I want to interview somebody, but I don't like talking to strangers, which makes it very difficult. But yeah, so I think that that's part of the thing that really differentiates, how do you write a novel is how do you approach research for each of your characters, for each of your settings, and for your overall plot to make it work.
Yeah, I think so. Two things that have just come to me is one, when I'm writing my novel, I kind of that's something I did one with essays too, is for me it
Hmm.
was easier to be like, okay, I have a 1,000 word essay that I need to write. So
Hmm.
300 words are the intro,
Yep.
600 words are the middle, and then whatever.
Hmm. Yeah.
I don't know if that math made any sense, but
Whatever.
and then I would break it down further and I was like, so if it's 600, if I have three topics, that means
Hmm.
each topic is going to be 200 words. And so
Right.
then I
Yeah.
would write that. I'd be like
Hmm.
100 words here, 200 words for this topic, and I'd write
Hmm.
like the theme. And then I do the same thing with my novel. So like I break it down into parts and be
Hmm.
like, this has to be at least this many words.
Yeah.
And or like I give myself like a flexible, like this needs to be between 2,000 and 3,000 words.
Hmm.
And so I'll write it like kind of almost prescriptively, like I write 2,000 words about this thing.
Right.
And after that, I know that I can go back and I can delete or I can add stuff, but
Yep.
it's just like write 2,000 words about this.
Hmm.
So that kind of gives me a thing. And I used to handwrite this novel when I first wrote it, I handwrote it.
Hmm.
And so everything was like, every chapter was like 10 pages. So I
Yeah.
would count 10 pages and then I'd write chapter two and then I'd count 10 pages and write
Wow.
chapter three. And I had it like all partitioned out in an entire
Hmm.
notebook so that when I wrote, I knew like I needed to like hurry up and stop so that I wanted everything to be approximately the same
That's so
length.
funny because my chapters are all over the place. Some of them are 12 pages, some of them are 3 pages.
So that's
Yeah.
just how I did it. And of
Mhm.
course, that's changed like once I've moved it to like the
Of
computer. But for the
course.
first draft, I just wanted to like,
Hmm.
for this chapter, you need to write 10 pages
Yeah.
handwritten. And like
Hmm.
sometimes, and then when I would go to edit, that when I would do the editing is when the chapter lengths would change, like from,
Hmm.
and there would be chapters like that where this chapter's
Yeah.
3 pages and this chapter's 12 pages. But
Hmm.
you know.
Well, I think that that's a really great tool that writers can use to get to the finish line, because that is the goal when writing the novel, is you just have to get to the finish line. And so I do think that that's a really smart idea of, this is what I want the plot to be overall, so I'm going to math it and divide and divide and divide into bite-sized pieces, until you can get it done. So I do think I really like that approach. If you are like at that very beginning place, you know?
Yeah, I think that's just that works best for me is because that was
Hmm.
how I wrote all my essays.
Yeah.
Was I mathed it out. So like it was again
Hmm.
it's that idea of making things as small as possible. That's like
Yep.
a known productivity thing. But for me, that made a lot of sense. Like, I just need these many numbers, and that was
Hmm.
this many words, and that was less daunting.
Yeah.
And even like when I was like, I'm struggling to hit 10 pages,
Hmm.
I would just write other stuff just
Yep.
to fill in those 10 pages, and I would be getting some interesting stuff like, oh, that's really
Hmm.
interesting. I really like this character. I think maybe I'll expand them or add them into
Right.
they would work really well in this scene. And so it
Hmm.
wasn't necessarily wasted writing, but I just
Yeah.
challenged myself to keep writing, even if it's like you go past what's supposed to be happening here,
Yeah.
or you go on a little sidebar. That's okay
Hmm.
because it's you're still writing towards this novel.
But I like that on the flip side of things too, of if you're getting to page 9 and you still have a ton that you want to write, okay, well, I have to at least wrap up this general idea so that I can move on. And again, it forces yourself to get to the ending, because I know that both of us are guilty of, well, I just want to make this, better. Or, oh, well, I have a little bit more that I want to add here. And it's like, no, just write the fucking ending, and then you can go back and change and edit and grow and all the rest of it. But you have to write the ending.
Yeah, and I think too having the physical notebook because I'd
Hmm.
count the pages and I'd write chapter two. So
Hmm.
I would have to wrap it up because
Yeah.
I'd write it in pen
Yep.
so that I couldn't
Change
go
it later.
I couldn't change it later. So like I
Right.
have to finish it here because chapter two starts on this next page.
Yeah.
And it was just a way of getting myself to
Hmm.
write and stop at a certain point. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's just about generating. I mean, in the beginning, it's about
Hmm.
just get it down. It doesn't
Yep.
have to be good. You
Hmm.
can edit it later.
Yeah.
Which I have to say, lately I've been very much at odds with the um, you know the idea of you cannot just write it down. You can always
Hmm.
edit it later
Right. Yeah.
because now I'm at the editing part and I'm like, that's a dumb idea. Like first, just don't
No.
worry about editing it. Just write it. You can always edit it later. And now that I'm editing it, I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's bad.
See, but that's my life as a pantser. Like I'm always living in the editing space because I'll just throw something on the page. So I mean, I really like the editing process because that's where I discover a lot about it. But it is daunting. Yeah, the editing process lasts years, unfortunately.
Yeah, might last the
Yeah.
rest of my life. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I think that that's another aspect when it comes to a novel is, when editing my short stories to submit to Silly Goose, um, it changed significantly. But it was only 10 pages. Like there's only so much that it can really change and evolve. And making sure that the voice is the same throughout the entire thing is a lot easier. But in looking at my novel, the voice that I had starting it is completely different than the voice I have
Mhm.
ending it. And so a lot of that editing process is not just filling in those gaps, fixing the continuity, expanding characters, whatever. It's also making sure that the person who wrote the book is the same person throughout, which is super hard because editing takes years. And
Mhm.
so making sure that you're able to come back to that place and come back to that voice, or if you're unable to come back to that, that you can evolve the whole thing so that it all feels the same. Like I think that's part of the things that I'm having the most difficulty with both of my books, honestly, was making sure that the writer was the same person.
That's really interesting because I'm thinking about when I was editing my novel, and I
Hmm.
could, when I was doing like my read through, I was
Hmm.
like, this was written by baby Maddie.
Yeah.
And this was written by me like 2 months ago.
Hmm.
And like I could definitely tell like they were. very different. And like that's not, I'm
Yeah.
not even talking about voice. I'm talking about style, like
Yeah.
stylistically being very different and being like, I
Mm-hmm.
need to get these to be the same.
Yes.
Is
Yeah.
really interesting to like kind of come up across that. And it is
Mm-hmm.
difficult when you're going through all these different because hopefully as a writer you're continuing to read and continuing to learn,
Mm-hmm.
and so you're going to continue to grow, and so it becomes a moving target because
Right.
now you're a better writer now, so now you have to go back and fix those chapters to be as good as you are now. But also
Exactly.
Baby Maddie had a better idea of the story conceptually than I do
Right.
now. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get back to being in that like obsessive state I was when I first started writing this novel.
Right.
But there's like kind of this disconnect of like this Maddie was more passionate and like knew the story, and this Maddie is a better
Yeah.
writer, but
Mm-hmm.
she's a little bit disconnected from the story.
Yeah. Because you've moved into that analytical brain instead of the
Right.
creative brain. And like you have to have that balance of both.
Yeah. And so that's been a difficult thing to
Mm-hmm.
navigate.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I think that there are, just having this conversation, I think there are a lot of key components to writing a novel that the biggest thing I feel like connecting them is that it takes time, um, which sucks. Like it is so hard. But I feel like that's kind of the key takeaway is like you have to have patience, you have to have tenacity, in order to write a novel. Not to say that you don't need to have those things when you write a short story, like you do to some degree. But I feel like in order to sit down and truly write a novel, even if you're just writing a first draft, like, the very first one that I did that I wasn't going to edit, that I wasn't going to, continue to go back to, you still have to have patience and tenacity to write that draft.
Oh, like 100% because you have to have perseverance because
Hmm.
for me, like I wrote a 100,000 word novel.
Yeah.
So like that, if I sat down, I wrote 500 words, that's still
Hmm.
multiple days that I had to sit down and write and like add to it.
Yep.
And some days you sit down and you write 20 words. Sometimes you write down, you sit and you stare at a blank Word document, like,
Those days
but
are the worst.
you have to keep coming back and you have to keep finishing it, despite,
Hmm.
I think, for me at least, despite your better judgment.
Yeah. And I think that that's a problem that a lot of writers have. When you go on writing TikTok, writing Instagram, you see the social media of other writers. People talk all the time about, oh, dropping one idea to move on to the next one and dropping one idea to move on to the next one and blah, blah, blah. And having the courage and tenacity to keep working on an idea. And I'm not saying that you have to, every idea that you start, you have to finish because some of them are dead ends or are too painful or are, just not actually a good story. Um, but to stick it out long enough to find out if that's true, I think is probably one of the first steps to writing a novel is thinking about, is there actually enough here to be worthwhile writing?
Right. Like, I think when I want to talk about the knowing that you finished a novel part.
Yeah.
Because I had this novel, I wrote most of it, and then I wrote the very end, and then I
Hmm.
had like this little tiny bit like right after the climax,
Hmm.
before the very end of the novel that I just really struggled with writing.
Yeah.
And I finally wrote it, and because it was like in the not quite the it wasn't I was literally writing the end. I was
Right.
writing something that was before the end, was the last
Hmm.
piece that I had to write, and then read through it and read through to the ending, and it like connected,
Hmm.
and then sitting there and being like, I I think I think I've written a novel. I think
Yeah.
I'm done. Like this has
Hmm.
everything that I need it to have. This
Hmm.
is a complete piece. But feeling for me, I'd love to know how you felt. For me, I
Hmm.
felt confused
Yeah.
and like I can't possibly this can't
Hmm.
I must be misinformed. There must be
Yeah.
something I haven't written. And
Hmm.
just I took a picture of me with my full manuscript, and I think in that
Hmm.
picture I look a little exasperated because I'm like, this I don't know what to do. Like
Yeah.
what now?
Yeah.
I've always been slowly hammering away at this
Hmm.
novel. Now I have a
Hmm.
full manuscript.
Yeah. So my first novel, I wrote the rough draft or the first draft to it, in 3 months. And I had just graduated from college and was living back at home and like working part-time. But really, I didn't have to worry about a whole lot because I was living back home. You know, my mom was taking care of me for the most part. And so I remember, every day my mom would be like, "Did you write? Did you write? Did you write? Did you write?" Because I asked her to do that, but also because she very, very, very much believes in my writing. And I finished and I wrote the last line and I closed my computer and I walked out to the living room and my mom immediately was like, "What's wrong?" Because I guess the look on my face was, I don't know, stricken. I'm not totally sure. And I walked out and I sat on the couch and I took my mom's hand. And something you need to know about my mother is sincerity freaks her the fuck out. Like, makes her skin crawl so uncomfortable. She is not good with like sincerity. But I took her hand and I was like, "Hey, you're gonna get through this. But I want to say thank you for believing in me and believing in my writing and giving me
Gross, Abigail.
space to work on this and, sheltering me and blah, 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 and whatever else." And she looked so uncomfortable. And so I finished it with, "You stupid fucking bitch."
Thank
And
you.
she like busted out laughing. Um, but I definitely agree with like that feeling of confusion and discomfort, but I also felt such a overwhelming just sense of like gratitude of like I have been granted the time in my life to do this. And I felt kind of the same way when I finished the rough draft of my second novel, because that was a time in my life when I started writing it during COVID. And then Michael and I moved to Orlando and we're living with my brother for a couple months while we looked for a house and stuff like that. But it was the same kind of situation where I was surrounded by people who loved me and were supporting me and were invested in what I was doing, even if they didn't fully understand it. So I think for me, both times, it's very much that sense of like you finish a hike and you're at the very top of it and you're looking around like, "Holy shit, how did I get here?" And then you remember that you have to turn around and go back down the fucking mountain. And like,
And you're
it's,
exhausted.
and I don't remember which path I took or how I got there. And
Mhm.
like, my water bottle's almost empty and like all of that. But there's that moment of like, wow, like, this is amazing. And then the editing stage hits you. Not like
I'm
that
I'm
for you.
so I'm so happy for you. That was not I felt like grief. Like I definitely
Oh,
felt it
no.
was a sadness that I felt.
Yeah. No, well, and again, I think that the difference is I, um, the rough drafts to my novel, I get out pretty quickly. 3 months is not a short amount of time, but when thinking about a book, it is a short amount of time. So
Right.
the actual writing process for me is much, much shorter, whereas the editing process is years long. And I
Both for me. Both are years for me.
But I feel like that may be why I have that sense of excitement at the end of it, is because it's like I've been running a marathon,
Mhm.
just to try to get to the finish line and like have that like runner's high when I've finished it. Um, because I know that I have to go back and I already have notebooks of ideas
I was just
because I don't let myself go back. Like once I have finished a chapter, if I have an idea of like, "Oh, that would make this chapter better," I write it down and then continue writing the rest of the book as if I have written that. I
yeah.
don't let myself go back.
I'm holding my manuscript while What Was I Made For by Billie Eilish is playing.
Oh my God.
Like like what's my purpose in life? I thought this would make
Hmm.
me happy.
Oh my
That's more
gosh.
like my experience.
No, mine does make me happy. Mine it. And again, I don't know if it's that fuck you gene or not, but there is that piece of me that's like, I fucking did this. Like, it's the same thing. Like, looking at my daughter sometimes, I'm just like, I made that. Like, I fucking grew that from nothing. And I feel that way about my books sometimes. Like, I know they're not perfect. I know that they may never get published. I know that I may never get representation. Like, but I fucking did that. and it's
I
cool.
I think that's normal. That's the way you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking about every time I've ever accomplished anything in my life,
Oh.
I've always felt uh, like I don't deserve this. Is
You need to rub it in people's face more.
something is wrong? There's been a terrible mistake. I
Oh
won
my
the
God.
outstanding graduate in writing award
Mm-hmm.
at the University of Tampa when I
Mm-hmm.
graduated. And I my t Erica Dawson
Hmm.
texted me
Yeah.
and she said, "Get your ass down here. You're winning an award." Because I was in class.
Yeah, of
And I
course.
was
Yeah.
like, first of all, I didn't know there was an award ceremony going on. Second of all, I didn't know there was an award.
Yeah.
Um, and third of all, I'm in class. Like I
Yeah.
can't text right now.
Yeah.
Um, but somebody else went and accepted the award on my behalf. But
Oh
they
my
brought it to me
God.
and I'm like, are we sure this is mine? But like it literally oh, gosh, has
Whoa.
it literally has my name on it. Like
Oh.
it's not like they made a mistake. I mean, I don't think
No,
they would,
they
but
did not make a mistake.
I still don't understand
Yeah.
what I was made for.
See, and that's hilarious to me because when they did the like outstanding student for, your graduating class and all that kind of stuff, our award was split between two people, both
Mhm.
poets, both already working in like the academic world, whatever. And I was pissed because I literally was like, I deserve that more than they do. Which is clearly not true. They deserved it. They won. But yeah, I think my mother may have boosted my confidence too high.
That is definitely not a trait we share. I think
Um,
like any accomplishment makes me really uncomfortable.
oh my gosh. I can't even say this because it'll make you fucking uncomfortable, but like you deserve the world. Like you are a wonderful, brilliant person, you dumb bitch.
Okay. I was about to leave the call, but you brought me back down to earth with that. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're
I needed
welcome.
that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know
Uh,
why. Like I think that's
mhm.
that's we're working on that in therapy. But
Yes. Yeah.
I don't have that, and maybe that'll be helpful
Hmm.
to some people. Maybe
Yeah.
there are people out there that are listening to this and they're
Hmm.
like, I didn't feel happy when I finished it.
Yeah. I do feel like I'm in the minority of I don't know, confidence wise, just because
I don't know.
of
I feel like
my
a lot of
family.
writers are very high in the ego department.
That's true, maybe, but I don't know. I really do bring it back to my family. Like they have always been so encouraging and supporting of my writing, even if they truly don't understand it. Um, so like, I got a short story published, whatever, last year or something like that, and like every single fucking person in my life bought the copy of that magazine. And it's like, you guys don't even read. And they're like, no, it doesn't matter. Like, you're published in it. Are
Yeah,
you kidding? Like, my grandmother had me like sign her copy. Like, they're just,
that's so cute.
I, it, when I get published and I have a book release party or a signing or something else, I know for a fact that I can always count on at least 10 people showing up.
That's really nice.
Like I am incredibly blessed in that way of like I know without a doubt that my mom and my brother and my godfather will show up, will be there with bells on, and will also have brought four other people.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, I
So,
love that.
yeah, I don't know. That completely goes off topic. It's not about how to write a novel, certainly. Um,
Tangentially
but
related.
yeah, no, absolutely. So, I don't know. I think that is kind of the difference though of the happy versus sad when you're finishing something, when something comes to an end. I've always been kind of excited about that next step. Graduating high school was sad and rough, but I was so excited about college. Graduating college was rough, but then I got into grad school. Like I've always looked forward to the next thing, and I feel the same way about writing a novel is okay, that's done. Now let's keep moving forward to the editing stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I needed a break.
Yeah. Understandable.
Yeah, it's like
Mm-hmm.
I guess like if you've never finished a novel, the way I would describe it is, have you
Mm-hmm.
ever binge watched a TV series that you were like really into
Mm-hmm.
and it ended?
Yeah. And then you have to go watch like Gilmore Girls or something as a palate cleanser.
You do you.
Yeah.
Um, I sit on the couch and stare off into the void and what do I do with my life now?
Oh no, I need media consumption at all times.
You know,
My brain
it
does
takes
not
all
sit
kinds. It
still.
takes all kinds.
Yeah. Yeah. No, my brain does not sit still. Like I am never not watching a show or reading a book or like consuming some type of media. I think one of the main things that we can take away from how to write a novel is you have to just do it. There is no other real tool that we can give you other than you have to try to cross the finish line. Now, whether you do that through technological tools to help you stay organized, whether you plot the whole thing before you start writing, break it up into those bite-sized pieces. There are lots of different approaches, but the only way to write a novel is to fucking sit down and do it.
Right. But finding the way to do it the way that makes sense to you, and it
Hmm.
may not make any sense. Maybe you have a completely different method.
Yes.
But what matters is finding a way that you can stick to
Hmm.
and continue to work on, and whatever that looks like. It doesn't
Hmm.
have to make sense. Again, nobody's hovering over you, seeing how
No.
you're writing your novel. It doesn't matter. No
Hmm.
one's seeing that I look possessed while I'm writing my
Oh,
novel.
I'm going to see it.
No. Um, so just do what works for you. It doesn't need to
Hmm.
make sense to anybody else. Just
Yeah.
do it.
And it can change from time to time. The way that I wrote my first novel and edited my first novel is completely different from the way I did my second one. And I'm hoping to do something completely different for my third. But at the end of the day, as long as I get a draft finished, I get to say, I wrote a novel.
And that's pretty damn impressive.
It's pretty fucking exciting. Not a lot of people get to say that. I'm Abigail.
And I'm Maddie, and this has been
Two writers.
Many Wrongs.